first learned of Kaneko Jenkins as a reporter on Chicago's WGN radio. Immediately, I felt a connection to her. Her story reminded me of why I made the change to journalism, to tackle the issues that profoundly affect the people of Chicago, and to be a voice for the voiceless.
Welcome back. I'm so excited. I am joined by the very talented investigative journalist and host of the new MTV series, True Life Crime, Dometi Pongo. How are you?
I'm well.
Good
How you
to
doing?
finally meet you.
Good to meet you.
You're doing such good work. I love your show so much.
I don't know if you realize this, but this is a special treat for me because you actually came on my show, MTV News Need to Know.
Oh my God, really?
In June of last year, but I wasn't there. I had a fill-in host, Taylor Ortega.
Yes.
Yes. And so this is a full circle moment.
I mean, listen,
so
I
I'm
love
honored to be
Taylor.
here.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I love Taylor, but I would have, of course, loved to be with you. So we're going to do we'll try and round two for that.
Yeah, yes,
well,
we have to.
In that clip we just watched, you talked about being connected to the case of Kaneko Jenkins, which you investigated in the premiere episode. Can you talk a little bit more about this and that experience and why you felt so connected to her?
What happened in my city, you know, Kaneko's from the west side of Chicago. I come from the southeast side in Calumet City, and we come from similar neighborhoods where crime is far more prevalent than it should be.
Yeah.
And when something happens to a person of color, you know, because of damaged relationships between the community and the police, we don't often trust authorities when they say what happened. So when it came time to look into this case, I knew I had to, you know, question everything and assume nothing. And, you know, she looks like she could be my little sister. You know?
I mean, she could be my best friend.
Exactly.
Like, that's the thing.
She could be somebody we hang with.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, this is somebody who is in our circle, and it's something that, you know, I used to go to hotel parties. You know, I used to kick it. I used to do things I shouldn't do with my friends, like getting drunk and, you know, just partying, and you don't expect it to end this way. And so it's like, you know, having this case and this opportunity to shed light on this is a privilege, because I'm hoping that we can learn some things from this to keep something like this from happening again.
Amen. Well said. I mean, how do you decompress from some of these cases, though? I mean, I'm in the true crime world myself, and sometimes it's just like...
It sits with you for a while, right?
It sits with me for a very long time. I mean, I donate to a lot of causes that I care about and trying to get these things happening, but it's frustrating because sometimes you feel like a case could be solved.
Yeah, and you feel, you know, you feel like your hands are tied when you can't get answers to certain questions. Like, even in the series, there's one question in particular that, you know, we didn't get the answer to. There was a toxicology report, and she had this medication for epilepsy in her system, and we say in the series, we still don't know how that medication that isn't a party drug, how that might have gotten in her system. So it kind of eats at you that you can't get that. You talk to everybody you possibly can. But in terms of decompressing, I actually watch a lot of reality TV. Like, that's my...
Amen. Amen. So do I.
After it's so heavy, you know, you sit down and you watch something that you don't have to think about, throw on Love and Hip Hop, and I just relax.
Love Love and Hip Hop. I talk to some of them. They're so cool.
Oh, like, I see.
I feel like a loser compared to those guys. They're so cool. Well, not everyone in the Twitterverse was convinced with the show's conclusion of Kaneko's case. Do you think her death really was accidental?
I do. I do believe that. But I also understand. I actually had a Twitter chat before the show, and I said that, listen, the Black Americans' experience in this country was a conspiracy, right? Like, we came here through, the conspiracy was to find a way to profit from Black labor for free. And so conspiracy is endemic to the Black experience. So when Black folks hear about something, I don't want people to think that me believing that it's an accident is an erasure of your right to believe in every theory that you have. And that's why we ended the series the way it ends. I say, you know, due to what I've seen, due to what I'm able to do as a journalist, objectively, I believe this was an accident. And immediately it cuts away to the friends, say, I don't accept that. Cuts to the family, I don't accept that. And I explain that different perspectives and come from people living different walks of life, having different lived experiences, and not having, you know, it's 42-minute documentary, not having had a 3-hour conversation with a homicide detective. You know, one of the things that a lot of people said on Twitter was, okay, if it was an accident, then why was her shoe off and why was there a scrape on her foot? And, you know, Paul Ciolino, the homicide investigator, said this. He wasn't involved in the case, but he was an expert. He said this: when people go through hypothermia, they tend to thrash about and go into a fit of hysteria. And a lot of that can be exacerbated due to the alcohol and the epilepsy medication. So I personally believe that her clothes being askew and those scrapes were through the hysteria
of her thrashing
about in the freezer due to the hypothermia. But again, it's a guess. It's an educated guess. Other people can feel what they feel, and I totally respect that.
I mean, I feel like that's the most frustrating part, right? Is sort of accepting an answer that doesn't make you feel like gives you any closure.
Yeah.
You know, even saying an accident, and it very well could be an accident, it doesn't make anyone feel good.
Doesn't make you feel better. And
right.
But honestly, Darren, even if it were not, the girl is gone. And
right.
so we wouldn't feel good anyway.
Yeah.
You know,
nothing's bringing her back.
Nothing's bringing her back. And, you know, there's current litigation right now. My heart is going out to Teresa Martin. My heart goes out to Bree, Irene, every person who was in the hotel that night that lost their friends. And I think when I look at online, I just want to encourage people to, whatever their theory is, to be respectful to the people who are still alive.
Yeah.
You know, come at me. I can take whatever.
Yeah.
You can call me anything, you know.
Channel their anger to you.
Yeah, channel it. Call me whatever. I'm just going to mute you.
Yeah, right. Like,
you know,
there is a mute button. Let us not forget.
Thank God for the mute button.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I'm very adamant about, in terms of Irene, Bree, everyone who's in the hotel that night, every friend who still lives in Chicago and has to walk those streets, be very mindful of the fact that, you know, you get to turn the TV off. This is their lives. They don't.
Right.
So,
this is an active emotion. It's happening all the time.
All the time.
It's a real life for them. You know?
Yeah. It's like as mad as you are about, you know, this death as a distance, how much more so when you grew up with this girl and watched her go through this. So, yeah, please be respectful.
Well, the epilogue was extremely chilling, learning that Kaneka's uncle and the journalist Zach were killed after filming Wrapped. How does that even make you feel? Like, what went through your mind when you found out? What's going on there?
This is what's so sad about living in Chicago. You see it too often, you know. Prior to me getting this opportunity, I lost my best friend, Guy Lopez. He was killed just months before I received the opportunity to do this. And when I did this with Zach TV, you know, we were talking and, you know, behind the scenes, some of the stuff that didn't make it to the final production, you know, we're just talking about Chicago, crime and life and how we wanted to do more to help our communities. You know, we both done some work at Fernwood Elementary School in the hundreds on the south side where we talked to kids there, you know, separately, on separate occasions. We're just talking like, oh, you went there too? Oh, you know this person? Like just building and talking about how we can build our communities. And for that to happen to Zach, it was like, damn, this is Chicago. You know, this is Chicago again. And then, you know, for that to happen to Uncle John, you know, it's hurtful, you know, and we've got to, that's why these stories are so important because, you know, death has become far too common in my community and I'm trying to find ways to change that.
And is that your hope from the show, is to sort of shed light, you know, the best disinfectant is sunlight, as I always say, or you're trying to like educate the public maybe about how we can change the crime all over the world, but maybe specifically Chicago? Yeah,
what's so about this entire series, what's so dope about it, every single story sheds light on each person, each victim's individual identity. So we have a story, for example, about Kadari Johnson, who was born male but is a gender fluid teen and was exploring their gender identity. You know, dressed as female when they felt like it, dressed as a man when they felt like it, and was killed. And we investigate whether or not that death was a hate crime. So each case gives us an opportunity to explore the issues surrounding that person's personal life. And that's the True Life thread. That's what True Life has always been about. And my goal is that we have a better understanding for people's identity, better respect for their identities. And we learned that, and one of the most practical things that I want folks to learn is that we don't have to wait 48 hours for us to report someone missing. If you have an inkling, if something feels wrong, something feels off, alert the authorities and stay on them until you get the answers you need.
And maybe trust your instincts a little bit.
And trust your instincts.
And the thing I like about your show, you know, even just going on what you're talking about, is you're not making any assumptions, right? You're not saying like, hey, this is a gender fluid teen, so therefore it was a hate crime. It's like, no, we owe it to this person and to this case to really investigate what was going on there.
That's right. Was this a hate crime?
Right.
Why did this happen? Was this a random act? Was it, you know, and I think that was how I grew as a person doing this. You know, as a journalist and from an identity, you know, we all have different identities, maybe marginalized in some way. When you do this work, you come in and you bring yourself to it. But there comes a point where the facts are the facts and have to bear out, and they bear out whatever conclusions they come up with. And so you have to reconcile that within yourself. I bring my perspective to it because that informs the stories I choose to tell, how I approach them, and how I interact with the people I'm interviewing. But then I also have to take all of that, take the facts, and then make sure I'm presenting the information responsibly. Well, the true crime world is lucky to have you. You've had a pretty impressive career. How did you get involved with this MTV docuseries in the first place? What kind of got you involved with true crime, you know, in your life? Man, I I actually didn't. It's funny because a lot of folks like, were you a true crime fan? Did you watch these shows
Right.
a lot? I would watch them when they came on and found them interesting, but I wasn't
gung-ho about it.
I wasn't gung-ho about them because, you know, sometimes it sits with me too long, you know what I mean? And I got this opportunity because when MTV came to Chicago and was looking for journalists who felt right to tell this story, my name kept coming up. I was working at WGN Radio as an anchor at the time and had come from Black-owned station WVON and had done reporting in the community for so long, but also had this unique experience working with extremely talented mainstream journalists who had resources and could pour into me and taught me different tips and tricks. And I built so many relationships in the city. It was just right. So when MTV came and presented this, I actually had to pray on it to figure out if I wanted to take this opportunity. And I remember opening, I'll never forget, Darren, I opened my Bible and sorry to take this to church, but
No, take it to church. We're good with it.
You know, it's death involved, and I wanted to make sure I was respectful in the case. And so I opened my Bible, and the first scripture I opened to was Proverbs 31:8-9. And it said something to the effect of, judge the cause of the poor and needy. Open your mouth for those who can't open their mouths for themselves.
Talk about a sign.
And I said, that's a sign. That means that I need to do this.
You're such a good vehicle for those people
Thank
who really need the voice out there and whose cases aren't solved. And it's honestly, like, I'm just so proud that you're the one to be able to do it. It really is great. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. You are absolutely incredible. This show is so intense, and I can't wait to see the other episodes. True Life Crime airs Wednesday nights at 9, 8 Central on MTV. Don't miss it, guys.